Hello, how are you today? Do you want to dive into a book that might just surprise you? Whether it becomes your next favorite or one you might skip? Let's find out what readers are saying about it.
Zana, who has 39 likes, says, I came for the promised sapphic vampire romance and, well, I stayed because good for her emo. This was a lot less about being queer in Victorian England, and more about surviving in a patriarchal society. Women's agency and lack of rights. This is great if that's what you're looking for. But I was hoping for a dark, Gothic romance between a vampire and a human that's so toxic that it straddles the line between sexy and ick. And because of that, I am honestly kind of disappointed tbh. I'll admit, I loved that the author did a lot of research on workers' rights, the steel industry, the Industrial Revolution, and Victorian England in general. You can tell that the author really cared about writing an authentic story. And I applaud her for it. This was definitely a labor of love, but other than that, I wasn't really too impressed with the story itself. While I liked Lenore's character arc, it read pretty tropey. The other important characters also read very tropey. You've got the husband doing secretive things behind his wife's back, the fake friend who might or might not be having an affair with the husband, and Carmilla, the femme fatale that read like the typical stock character. Honestly, it was all very predictable. You've seen this play out 100 times before in books, TV shows, movies, etc. I kept hoping that it'd lean more on the toxic relationship between Carmilla and Lenore. But while their slow burn relationship did happen on page, it read more like a metaphor for Lenore's self-discovery. Their relationship didn't feel concrete. Carmilla was just there, egging Lenore on while being a freeloader at Nethershaw. I wanted a lot more longing, a lot more angst, and definitely a lot more lesbian vampire action. Thank you to Zondo and NetGalley for this arc. Sadie Hartman, who has 92 likes, says, title author Hungerstone by Kat Dunn, page count 336, publisher Zondo, format audiobook Hoopla, other books I enjoyed by this author, first time affiliate link https bookshop.org 7,576,978,163,893, release date February 18, 2025. General genre Bisac lit FICLBGTQIA. Romance, mystery, thrillers, crime, horror, fantasy, historical subgenre themes, Gothic, feminist, vampire, sapphic romance, marriage, desire, sexual awakening, mystery, Gothic horror thriller, illness, stranger house guest, infidelity. Writing style moody, atmospheric, alluring, seductive. What you need to know: a compulsive feminist reworking of Carmilla, the queer novella that inspired Dracula. My reading experience: Hungerstone by Kat Dunn is an immaculately crafted Gothic horror novel that builds tension through atmosphere, character dynamics, and psychological unraveling. I listened to the audiobook, and it became a highlight of my day. The narrator gave distinct voices to both female leads. It felt like a movie in my mind. The main character, Lenore, is the perfect wife, polite, devoted, and always mindful of what is expected of her. Her husband barely acknowledges her. He's self-absorbed and misogynistic. Their marriage bed is cold. It's painful to watch Lenore sidestep her needs and desires so that she can shape herself into the woman she thinks her husband wants instead of the woman she wants to be. Carmilla's sudden arrival disrupts Lenore's carefully maintained existence. She overstays her welcome and challenges Lenore's understanding of everything. This is, at first, frustrating to Lenore, but over time, Carmilla's nudges and prompts force her to see things more clearly. As Lenore's unexplained illness worsens and her marriage begins to unravel, her interactions with Carmilla seem more urgent. What first seemed inappropriate or dangerous becomes something she cannot ignore. Kat Dunn's writing is so deliberate and controlled, setting the perfect pace. The horror elements creep in seductively, rooted more in psychological and emotional distress than terror. The novel stays true to the historical period as Lenore wrestles with her liberation, making her transformation feel natural and exciting. I was on the edge of my seat with anticipation. Final recommendation: Hungerstone is ideal for those who appreciate slow-burning Gothic horror with a strong focus on character. If the moody, mysterious marriage dynamic and tension of Rebecca paired with the vampiric, sapphic yearning of Carmilla sounds interesting to you, Hungerstone will utterly consume you. Comp's House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. Carmilla graphic novel by Amy Chu. A Long Time Dead by Samara Brieger. BJ, who has 92 likes, says, "What is great about Hungerstone is what is great about Carmilla. Perhaps what is great about all vampire stories, the irresistible tension between fear and desire. At its best, Kat Dunn's reworking of Carmilla is less an update of Sheridan Le Fanu's classic for the modern reader than a remarkable heightening of the original's half-kept promise. I must admit, even somewhat past the halfway mark, I was feeling mostly underwhelmed. Aside from the narrator, the novel's characters are unidimensional. Cold husband, servile servants, even Carmilla herself hardly a character. And Clara, who should mean so much, one lost opportunity after another. But then, this sense that the novel's people are only half seen is not entirely ineffective. It contributes to the novel's claustrophobic air, to a growing sense of dread, isolation, desperation. I am so furious. Lenore howls at anyone who is not alone. Then she trips a stranger, sending forth a stream of beautiful red blood. In my case, the novel suffered for being read alongside Nicholas Nickleby. Dunn's prose dimming in the light of Dickens' sparkling sentences. What novel wouldn't suffer that comparison? But Hungerstone, with its Victorian pretensions, is particularly vulnerable, and though there are effective moments, Dunn doesn't always quite pull off the trick. So essential to historical fiction, of dialogue that feels at once of another time and like something someone would really say. One last complaint, ultimately withdrawn. At first, the subplot about industrialization felt rather obvious, an easy way to create social and political stakes for what is at heart a story personal to the point of selfishness. The equation of bloody industrial accident to bloody supernatural incident felt, as Carmilla herself might say, rather boring. In fact, for a time it seemed that Hungerstone was almost trying to be boring, bending over backwards to provide the straightforward symbolism of the modern feminist novel, complete with elaborate fancies of disordered eating, Instagram-worthy "you are enough" affirmation, and wrote anti-capitalism straight from the mouths of characters taking extravagant pleasure in reaping capitalism's blessings. In the end, I am happy to report, the novel utterly fails at being boring. What looked, at first blush, like labored and obvious symbolism utterly refuses to resolve. The novel has a wild heart. It works itself into a frenzy, exhausts itself, works itself up again. I devoured the last third and finished the book utterly satisfied with the meal. McGray Fume, who has 113 likes, says, "This is a great character study of feminine rage written in a fantastic prose. In a setting of Gothic horror, I feel like at its core, it is a very modern and beautifully written feminist tale. The main character is tragic and her path of self-discovery and acceptance of her desires felt so well deserved. I listened to the audiobook version and the narrator is fantastic. She adds a lot of depth to the text and I would definitely recommend this version. Thank you, Dreamscape Select, for this arc. Brooke X1D 717 X1D71 who has 88 likes says 1. 2. A thrillingly salacious tale of betrayal, murder and supernatural intervention. Lenore begins to unravel her past and in doing so, uncovers a darkness in her household that will place her at terrible risk. TW blood, gore, animal death, cannibalism, infertility, suicidal thoughts, revenge against a shitty husband, vampires, feminine rage. I am sat. This is the second book in a row I've read that has fuck the patriarchy vibes. I am completely fine with that. Since I heard about it's been one of my most anticipated reads of this year. It did not disappoint. I was instantly immersed in the story with the author's atmospheric, poetic writing. The moment we were introduced to the FMC, Lenore, I felt for her, was drawn to her inner thoughts we continued to get throughout the book. I knew there was more to our girl than she was letting on. My one tiny complaint was I wish there was more of Carmilla. More specifically her story, where she came, her life, why she was the way she was. I wanted more of her Lenore's relationship. Q.